These are sperm whales, the largest predators on the entire planet. Every day, these whales dive thousands of meters into the pitch black abyss to hunt down and rip apart giant squids. These whales were bred to kill sea monsters. These are the deadliest predators ever. And you, my unfortunate friend, just landed right next to an adult bull sperm whale. But despite all of this, the whale won't eat you. The whale won't even try. And no, it's not because we have bones. Sperm whales can eat fish with bones that weigh over 200 pounds. It's not because we're too inconvenient. Sperm whales will go miles out of their way to find 1,000-pound colossal squids. No matter how delicious you might make yourself try to be, a sperm whale will just simply refuse to hunt you. In all of recorded history, there are 0 cases of a wild sperm whale actively hunting a human. But why do these giants not want to eat us? And if you really ticked one off, would it ever try to eat you? The most obvious answer is that they just aren't aggressive. When we think of whales, we usually think of peaceful creatures that just sort of drift around the ocean singing to each other. But if you actually look at how a sperm whale survives, peaceful is the absolute last word you should use. Great white sharks hunt seals. Orcas hunt fish and penguins. Sperm whales hunt monsters. Every single day, sperm whales dive thousands of meters down into the midnight zone, specifically to pick fights with giant squids. These are 40-foot-long invertebrates armed with sharp beaks and tentacles that look like, yeah, you really don't want to get grabbed by that. And the sperm whale actively seeks them out in total darkness. When these whales come back to the surface, their heads are completely covered in deep scars from where the squids fought back, desperately trying to rip the whale's skin off. So, I made my point. We get it. They're violent, they're a little bit insane, and they're pretty darn cool. We know they're way more capable of killing things that are significantly larger and far more dangerous than a human. So if they're this aggressive and this dangerous, why do we still view whales as completely harmless? When you see a video of a massive blue whale or a humpback whale, they look entirely unbothered by anything around them. And that's not because they're baleen whales. Baleen whales don't have teeth. They are not predators. They have massive plates of keratin in their mouths that act like giant coffee filters. They survive by opening their mouths, taking in an entire swimming pool's worth of water, and, well, doing that. They just open up and engulf entire clouds of tiny animals all at once. Because of this, we culturally assigned the label of gentle giant to basically every large whale in the ocean. We assume that because they're big, they must be passive filter feeders that couldn't hurt us even if they tried. But sperm whales are completely different. They actually have teeth, meaning they actually have to do the work and hunt. They're actual predators, and not just that, but apex predators. So if they have the instincts of a killer, and well, more than the capacity to be a killer, what happens if a human actually makes one mad? Well, we actually have a very clear answer to that, because for a couple of hundred years, humans made them very, very mad. During the 1800s, the whaling industry was at its absolute peak. Humans were sailing out into the middle of the ocean in wooden ships, launching small rowboats, and hunting sperm whales for the highly valuable oil inside their heads. And usually, the whales would just try to swim away. But sometimes, they fought back. The most famous example of this happened in 1820 with a whale ship called the Essex. The crew of the Essex had just harpooned a smaller whale when suddenly an 85-foot sperm whale surfaced near their main ship, but it completely stood its ground. It looked at the ship and went, yeah, no, my turn. Turned its gigantic body, lined up directly with a 238-ton wooden ship, and charged. It slammed its massive head directly into the side of the hull. The impact was so violent that it knocked the sailors off their feet and immediately cracked the ship's foundation. But the whale wasn't done. It swam off, turned around, and charged a second time, hitting the ship even harder. The Essex began taking on water instantly, and the ship was completely destroyed. This was an intentional strike. The whale recognized the ship as a threat and just took it out. This event is actually what inspired the novel Moby Dick. So, we have absolute proof that a sperm whale can look at a human ship, recognize it as an enemy, and just completely destroy it. But there's one specific detail about the Essex sinking that makes this entire situation even more confusing. When the whale destroyed the Essex, the ship sank, leaving the surviving sailors completely stranded. They were sitting in fragile rowboats or just straight up floating in the open water. They were panicked, thrashing around, and completely defenseless. The whale was right there. It had just successfully defeated its enemy. It was highly agitated and sitting in the water surrounded by a bunch of bite-sized humans. If this was a shark, or a bear, or a tiger, this is the part where the humans get eaten. But the whale just left. It destroyed the massive wooden threat, completely ignored the floating humans who were piloting the ship, and swam away. Even when a sperm whale is enraged enough to shatter a 200-ton ship, it still draws a hard line at actively consuming the humans inside it. Why? If it hates them enough to destroy their entire ship, why not just swallow them? Or if you really hate the taste of humans, smack them with its tail so they can't come back again with another ship. Well, before these guys can even choose to eat us, I know what you're thinking. Could a sperm whale even physically do it? There's a very common myth that whales can't eat humans because their throats are too small. And for baleen whales, this is actually 100% true. Even though a blue whale is the largest animal to ever exist on planet Earth, its throat is only about the size of a grapefruit. If a blue whale accidentally scooped you up in its mouth, it physically couldn't swallow you. You'd just get stuck, and the whale would have to spit you out, which would probably be pretty embarrassing for the both of you. But once again, sperm whales are built completely differently. They're literally designed to swallow 40-foot giant squids. Their esophagus is incredibly wide, and their jaws can open to an almost 90-degree angle. If a sperm whale swam up to you and opened its mouth, you could comfortably slide all the way down its throat without even touching the sides. There's absolutely nothing physically stopping a sperm whale from swallowing a human being whole. So if the anatomy isn't stopping them, what is? When you look at a piece of food, you use your eyes. You see the colour, the shape, and the size, and your brain tells you, yes, that's a sandwich. But sperm whales hunt in the midnight zone. There's absolutely zero sunlight down there. It's completely dark. Having good eyesight in the midnight zone is completely useless because there's literally no light for your eyes to process. So, to hunt down there, sperm whales rely entirely on sound. A sperm whale's blocky head is filled with a substance called spermaceti. This is a highly specialised oil that the whale uses to amplify and direct sound waves. They produce a series of incredibly loud clicks, and they blast these sound waves out into the dark ocean. When those sound waves hit an object, like a giant squid, they bounce back to the whale. The whale's lower jaw actually acts as a massive antenna, catching the returning echoes and sending them directly to its inner ear. This is echolocation, but on a scale that's genuinely hard to wrap your head around. Its sonar is so unbelievably powerful that it can literally see the exact density, shape, speed, and internal structure of whatever the sound waves hit. And this is exactly where the problem starts for us. When a sperm whale blasts its sonar at a giant squid, the sound waves hit a solid block of muscle and water. The echo that bounces back tells the whale, this is a giant, fleshy meal. But what happens when a sperm whale blasts its sonar at a human? Well, the sound waves travel through the water and hit your body, but human bodies are built completely differently than deep-sea squids. First, we have a dense internal skeleton. Second, and much more importantly, we have lungs filled with air. In the ocean, sound behaves very strangely when it hits air. The difference in density between the water outside your body and the air inside your lungs causes the sound waves to bounce back really hard. To a sperm whale's sonar, you just look like a glowing pair of lungs wrapped around a crunchy skeleton. Which, to be fair, is exactly what we are. Doesn't really matter how any of you Beyond the Blue viewers look like, you're ultimately just a really, really weird bony stick figure. We simply don't fit the acoustic profile of anything they have ever evolved to eat. When a sperm whale scans you, its brain just doesn't register food. And even if they decided to ignore their sonar and just take a bite anyway, they'd immediately regret it. Sperm whales are highly specialised eaters. They spend their entire life consuming squids, which are entirely made of soft tissue. Squids don't have bones. They don't have ribs. Aside from a small, sharp beak, they're basically just giant, floating gummy bears. A sperm whale's digestive tract is perfectly designed to handle this squishy diet. Now, imagine that same whale taking a massive bite out of a human. they'd be instantly crushing through femurs, ribs, and a skull. For an animal that has evolved to eat soft invertebrates, biting into a human would be a really weird experience. It would be like you expecting to bite into a soft marshmallow and you feel something crunch inside, which is gonna ruin your day. There's no nutritional value in our bones. We don't have the thick blubber they need for energy, and we're full of splintering calcium. It's not that they couldn't eat our bones, but do you really want to? We sound weird, we look weird, and we'd taste absolutely awful. But for those of you watching who have read a lot of ocean history, you've probably stumbled across the story of James Bartley. The legend goes that in 1891, a whaling ship was hunting a sperm whale off the coast of the Falkland Islands. The whale fought back, smashed one of the rowboats, and James Bartley disappeared into the water. The crew assumed he drowned, but 2 days later, they finally managed to kill the whale and haul it onto the ship. When they cut open the whale's stomach, they supposedly found James Bartley inside, completely alive. The story claims that he survived inside the whale's stomach for 36 hours, but the gastric acids had completely bleached his skin bone white, and he was blind for the rest of his life. It's an incredible, terrifying story. And it's also completely fake. Yes, it's completely fake. Don't listen to any of that. First of all, whales actually have a multi-chambered stomach, very similar to a cow. The first chamber is highly muscular, designed to physically crush and grind up the hard beaks of giant squids. If you were swallowed, you'd be actively crushed by thousands of pounds of muscle. Secondly, there's absolutely zero oxygen inside a whale's digestive tract. You'd suffocate in minutes. And finally, the stomach acids of a sperm whale are so unbelievably strong that they dissolve solid bone. If you were in there for 36 hours, you wouldn't come out bleached white. You wouldn't come out at all. The James Bartley story was a complete fabrication, likely made up by the crew to sell newspapers. Shocker. But the fact we have to rely on a fake story from 1891 just to find an example of a human being eaten by a sperm whale actually proves the point perfectly. It just doesn't happen. And today, we have even more proof of this, because our relationship with these animals has completely changed. We're no longer hunting sperm whales in wooden rowboats. Today, the humans who interact with sperm whales are usually marine biologists, photographers, or deep-sea divers. And what happens when a human intentionally jumps into the water with a 40-ton apex predator? Absolutely nothing. There's footage all over the internet of divers swimming right alongside sperm whales. And when you watch these videos, you realize just how unbelievably aware these animals are. They're incredibly careful. A sperm whale is 60 feet long, but it knows exactly where its body is, so it will actively move out of the way just to avoid bumping into a tiny human diver. They'll turn their heads, look directly at the diver, and just peacefully observe them. Sometimes, a whale will even pause and let out a few soft clicks, essentially scanning the diver out of pure curiosity. They know exactly what we are, and they know exactly where we are. They have complete and total self-control. But just because they have self-control does not mean you should go jump into the water with one. While a sperm whale will never intentionally eat you, swimming next to one is still one of the most dangerous things you can possibly do. And that brings us right back to their echolocation. When a sperm whale is just casually scanning a diver, it uses very low-level clicks. But when a sperm whale is actively hunting, or if it gets started, it can crank that sonar up to maximum power. A sperm whale click is the single loudest sound made by any animal on Earth. It can reach up to 230 decibels. A jet engine at takeoff is about 150 decibels. Sound travels much faster and hits much harder underwater than it does in the air. If you're swimming next to a sperm whale and it decides to let out a full blast click directly at you, you're not going to hear it. You're going to feel it. The sound waves are so incredibly powerful that they can literally vibrate the water inside your body. Divers who have been hit by strong sperm whale clicks report that their entire chest cavity physically heated up, and their limbs temporarily locked in place. If a whale blasted you at point blank range, the acoustic force could literally rupture your eardrums, vibrate your internal organs until they hemorrhage, and completely paralyze you. You'd basically just be vibrated to death, which is definitely not how you want to go out. And even if they don't click at you, you're still swimming next to a 40-ton animal. A sperm whale doesn't have to be angry to kill you. If it gets slightly spooked and decides to swim away quickly, a single accidental flick of its tail would hit you with the force of a speeding freight train. They might be peaceful towards us, but they're still absolute forces of nature. And you're still just a fragile stick figure. If you're still wondering why the sperm whale that sank the Essex didn't kill all the crew members by at least smacking them with their tail after it sank the ship, the real answer is, we don't really know. There's a lot we don't understand about animals. Sperm whales are incredibly smart, wildly smart, but they still aren't humans. They don't necessarily see humans as the pilots of the boat. Or maybe they do, but we don't fully know. Maybe they just thought the ship was the main threat and that it taught the humans the lessons. Maybe it thought the humans were inside the ship's stomach. Maybe it thought the humans were just not worth the chase and looked like really ugly fish. But let's just be glad we aren't food, and instead we're just air-filled weirdos floating at the surface. Yup, I'm a really ugly fish, guys, don't mind me. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching. Please keep leaving your suggestions in the comments for what ocean animals you want to see next, because I really do read them and it helps a lot. Also, if you haven't seen my second channel yet, Beyond the Green, make sure to check that out too. It's similar stuff, just up on land, and if you want to learn more about the absolute giant monsters these whales were actually hunting down in the Midnight Zone, check out this video here.